Yeah, no, my mum and dad were in showbiz, yeah. I mean, music from as early as I can remember, yeah. Vaudeville, showbiz days, late 30s. I got still old posters of them, from Germany, Frankfurt, which were hand-painted, huge sheet, with the Macari serenaders. Who's the Scottish Macaris, Italian. Yeah. And they used to have a Macari music shop down in Tottenham Court Road, London, Macari's. And it's Lou Macari, the football player, his family, his grandparents.
So were they singers, comedians? What did they do?
They had a band of gypsies, supposedly. My dad was an accordionist in the band. Mm-hmm. And my mum sang just up as a gypsy and also played a bit of it. Because accordion was what the guitar is now. Back then, accordion was the popular instrument, And they met in the band, my mum and dad, actually.
So who taught you to play?
Well, drums is what I was a singer, because, Elvis mad, and then, I love drums, I always did. So when Polly Palmer, who used to be in Family, and I mentioned Family because I'm
Leicester
sure
band,
you'll know that the great Leicester Rick Gretsch, who went on to be Blind Faith.
And Roger Chapman's still touring as well.
And Rog, yeah. I used to come up here to visit Rick, go to the snooker hall, go and see his folks. Polly Palmer, that was in Family, and in my first band from Worcester, Deep Feeling, Polly, he was a flute player and played vibraphones. So we, we quickly developed a really nice style with all those different instrumentations. And
Now, of course, I've mentioned Traffic. What was the first band? You have a school band or anything?
The Hellions, that was in Evesham, yeah. That was a real simple, rock and roll stuff, doing Elvis and all that, little Richard Jerry Lewis stuff, Chuck Berry. And then I would sing, in that band when Polly would play the vibes or flute. I'd jump on the drums. Mm-hmm. Polly was basically the drummer. And so I had the drumming and the singing already going, I never know quite which, but that's why I've never considered myself to be like the drummer's drummer, who did nothing else but drums and can talk about the equipment and what snare I'm using now and paradiddles. I was never technically that much into drums to that extent, although I love drumming, and I like rhythm. So it's a dual thing. And then, of course, I started writing songs pretty early, from about 65, I think it was. And so without being asked, we just naturally took our roles in Traffic. I just started writing lyrics, so Paper Sun was the first one.
And
up in Newcastle, in fact.
There were many, many, many more. How did you all meet, by the way?
In Birmingham.
Mason, Winwood,
and Wood,
and Capaldi.
Yeah.
You've seen them many times, underneath the title of a record, because you all wrote them, but you and Stevie wrote most of the stuff, didn't you?
Yeah, eventually we partnered out up into I would write something. Steve and Chris would do the music, like Fantasy and a few other things. But the minute we started to live a little bit more individualistically, I would write lyrics, give it to Steve. Steve would write the music. Once we weren't all living together in the cottage, we had this great cottage in Berks. It was just unbelievable. Jamming all day. It was just fantastic.
The thing about the band, there were so many talented people around at that time, but there were very few bands who could say they got so many talented people in one band. And your successes since you left the band, since the band split, has proved that, really, hasn't it?
No, you're right, because I guess most bands, and this is not, I wouldn't possibly say, because they're all my greatest mates, especially the drummers, they're all the salt of the earth, ones who are not even with us anymore, like Keith Moon. But most of the drummers I know didn't really write or sing. They just played drums. But I started as a singer, and then I used to sit on the drums, and I was writing early. So you got Steve and Chris, brilliant musically, and of course Steve's the vocalist, as well. And you got Dave, who sang well, played well, and wrote. And then, of course, I'm writing most of the lyrics, but I'm the drummer. Plus, I'm helping out and adding vocals. So yeah, it was pretty widely spread in the group, which was a nice thing to have.
Hey, thanks again for listening to this interview. If you enjoyed it, please click on the like button. Make sure you ring that notification bell. Check out all of the other interviews here, and if you can, please help the channel by subscribing. Thank you.